Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a while, I say that every time, but yeah, I wanted to do some start of the year videos for you guys to get back into the filming mood. I know it's like already almost February, but I've been at my parents' house the last like month and a half and I didn't have my filming camera, so I haven't been able to film any of the beginning of the year videos, but luckily today I have a full day. It's Sunday to kind of do some of my beginning of the year videos. So I hope that you guys enjoy and stick around. Today I'm going to be doing a book haul slash every book I have on my physical TBR. I ended up getting my physical TBR down to 0 in like November-ish. So all of these books are new that I haven't read yet. And I'm trying to keep my TBR relatively low. So this is not a small TBR. As small as I was hoping it would be. I have been trying to kind of over the last year or so keep my TBR to around 20 books or below, but that kind of got ruined when I went on Book Depository and bought 50 classics. So most of the books that I'm going to be sharing today are classics, but I do have a handful of books that I bought that are not classics. I blame white wine for that spontaneous purchase, so. In the past, I haven't been a huge classics reader. I find them kind of boring, or the ones that I've read I found kind of boring. And back in high school, I was a terrible student and I didn't read any of the required reading. So some of these are books that I technically should have read in high school, but I never did because, as mentioned, I was a terrible student. So I'm trying to get into classics now, and I'm hoping that this is the year that I'll find some classics that I actually enjoy. So if you guys have favorite classics, let me know down below in the comments because I definitely want to check out some more classics. Okay, so I'm going to start with the non-classics here. There's a book that I have on my physical TBR that it's over there and I don't feel like getting it. It is The Mysteries of Thorn Manor by Margaret Rogerson. She wrote one of my favorite YA series. Can you see it? Right here. Is that it? This. Right here. She wrote one of my favorite YA fantasy books, which is The Sorcery of Thorns. And so this book is a collection of, I don't know if it's short stories or if it's just like one story that takes place after the events of A Sorcery of Thorns. So I'm looking forward to reading that. I did start like the first chapter or so, I am enjoying it, but I don't really remember a lot of what happened in Sorcery of Thorns, and I don't feel like rereading it. So yeah, I'm just going to go into this. It's relatively short and the book is tiny. I thought it was going to be the size of the regular book, but it's not. So I don't think I'm going to put it on this shelf next to this book. Maybe I'll put it somewhere else because it's just gonna look really weird with all these books that are like correct height or same height. Next up is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This one, I will be honest, has been on my TBR for a long time, but I haven't hauled any of these books and I haven't made a haul in like 6 years, so I'm still hauling it. It's The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, and this is the book one in the Stormlight Archive, which is a really expansive fantasy series written by Brandon Sanderson. In the past, I've read Brandon Sanderson before. I have read Skyward, which is a YA book, and I did read the original Mistborn trilogy, which I thought I was gonna love and ended up just like enjoying it. Like, I think it's really well written, but it wasn't really something that spoke to me. I don't know. I'd read the first book maybe like 5-6 years ago and then never continued, and then last year I decided to continue with the trilogy and finish it. And this one I actually have tried to read before, but I DNF'd it, and the reason why is because I was just listening to it as an audiobook, but with high fantasy like this, I definitely need to read it physically, or at least read it physically with the audiobook. So I feel like I wasn't really getting the full experience, but it is so chunky. So but this year is the year that I will get to it, mark my words. Okay, and next up is The First Binding by R.R. Verity. This is also the start of a new fantasy. I don't know if it's a trilogy or a duology. I don't think it's a standalone, but this is also so big. It's 800 pages, which is why I haven't read it yet, but the reviews are glowing. Let me just read you the inside flap here, just the beginning here. All legends are born of truths, and just as much of lies. These are mine. Judge me for what you will, but you will hear my story first. And it's about some guy named Ari, who is a legend and a monster. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. Stephanie from Steph Bookish was reading this in a live show like last year at some point, and I thought that just sounded really interesting, so I decided to get it. But I am going into this one relatively not knowing what it's about because I like to be surprised, so I'm excited for this one. Okay, and I'm also just not going to go into too much of a synopsis for these because there's over 50 books, so we're just gonna hopefully go through them pretty quickly. Next up, we have Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis, and this one I think is a women in science, like she works in chemistry, I'm assuming, but this won the Goodreads fiction book of the year, so I'm really excited to read this one as well. I've heard literally nothing but good things about it, and I do think it is kind of like, I don't know if it's historical, I don't know which year it takes place in, let me see. 1960s. So it takes place in the 1960s, and she's the only woman on her team of predominantly men. So, and I think there's like a bit of a romance in it too, but it's not a romance book, it's just it's a literary fiction, but I'm really looking forward to it. Literary fiction is really hit or miss with me. I either find them extremely boring or I love them. So who knows? We'll see, but I'm really looking forward to this one as well. Okay, and next is A Time of Dread by John Gwynne. This is a trilogy. It's already completed, and it takes place, I think, hundreds of years after the events of the Faithful and the Fallen series by John Gwynne, which is one of my absolute favorite fantasy series. It's probably my favorite fantasy series now. I'm obsessed with it. So good. If you guys have never checked it out, I definitely would check that out. It's really easy to digest. It's really it's wonderfully written. The characters are absolutely amazing. It's like multi-POV, and by the second book I was obsessed with every POV, even the ones for characters that you're not supposed to like. I was just like so enthralled, and I didn't feel like I wanted to skip any chapters, which I do feel like sometimes happens with multi-POV books. I'm not interested in some people's perspectives, and I'm interested in others more. So that series, so good. But it's not about that. It's about this. So this is the trilogy that takes place hundreds of years after the events of that book. And if it's anything like The Faithful and the Fallen, I'm gonna love it. And next up we have Lost Boy by Christina Henry. This is a Peter Pan, oh that is bright. This is a Peter Pan retelling, but like a dark retelling. Yeah, I've read from Christina Henry before and I really liked what I have read, so I'm hoping this will be no different. I also have two books from Robin Hobb. This is Assassin's Quest and Royal Assassin. These are the second and third books in the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. I read Assassin's Apprentice I think 2 years ago at this point, so I might have to reread it, but I really wanted to continue with the series because I've just literally heard nothing but good things about Robin Hobb, and I did really enjoy her writing style, and I have heard that you just really get invested in the characters and the world, which I really, really want. I am predominantly a plot-driven reader, which apparently is like what you're not gonna get with these. It's really just like long, sweeping, epic tales of like him journeying from one place to another, or so I've heard, but I don't know, maybe I'll really get into it, because if something is too plot focused, I also lose interest. So I really need a good balance, but hopefully the characters, I'll become so in love with them that I won't even care that there's no plot. So yeah. And these are so pretty too. I got these on Book Depository. All right, and then I have one more non-classic, even though this will probably be a classic in another like 20-30 years, and it is Misery by Stephen King. This one I do know the synopsis of. It follows a writer who wrote a really famous book series, and then he gets held hostage by this lady called Annie Wilkes, and she just basically holds him hostage in her house because he got into an accident because it's really like snowy outside. And yeah, she's a big fan of the series that he wrote. So yeah, I have watched the movie. I love the movie. I've read a couple Stephen King's. I've read It and Carrie. Is that it? That might be it. But I am really interested in reading more of his other books. He has a lot to get through. Yeah, this is the next one on my Stephen King list. Also, I love this cover. It's so pretty. And now we're gonna get started on all of the classics that I have. And I'm not gonna go into any detail about what they're about because one, I don't know, and number two, we don't want to be here for another 6 hours. But I will tell you what the editions are because they're so beautiful. So the first thing I got are 3 Russian classics. So I got 2 from Leo Tolstoy. Bet you can guess what they are. Number 1, Anna Karenina. Oh, it's so pretty. I'm obsessed. I did watch the Keira Knightley version of the movie, which I don't think I enjoyed it. It's only because Aaron Taylor Johnson, his hair, his facial hair, is just terrible. It really took me out of the movie, but it's just absolutely stunning. Oh, obsessed. And these are the Russian vintage classics. Oh, they're so pretty. And honestly, not that expensive. I'm actually kind of surprised. So that's the first one. And then, oh, this is gonna be my Everest. It is War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. It's like 1,200 pages of classics. Oh, I'm scared. What I need to do is I just need to read like 10 pages a day, 15 pages a day, and then eventually I'll get through it. If I'm still alive then. And then I also got a Dostoevsky novel, A Crime and Punishment by, how do you pronounce his first name? Fyodor? Is the F silent? Fyodor Dostoevsky? Great name. This is also just beautiful. Wow. It's so stunning. It's so beautiful. And then we have two that I got at Barnes & Noble recently. These are ones that I probably should have read in high school or college, but I never did. The first is The Lord of the Flies by William Golding. I think this is so pretty too. I think it's just Penguin books, so Penguin. I got it at Barnes & Noble, but I'm sure you can get it online. So pretty. And then also a classic, Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. This one, I just think the cover is really pretty. I remember seeing it in high school. I don't think any of my classes had to read it, but I wouldn't remember either way. But yeah, I don't know anything about this book. Literally not a thing, but I'm looking forward to reading it. And next, it's gonna be really hard to hold up, but I got, how do I even hold it? How do I even hold it? I can't even hold it. I got a bunch of, you can't see it that direction, Shakespeare plays. Last year, you can actually see them right here. This stack here is all Shakespeare plays. Not these ones. This bottom like 5 are not, but these ones from the blue and up, and then not these two, are all Shakespeare plays, because last year I decided that I wanted to get all of these really pretty editions of Shakespeare and then read all of them. So last year I actually challenged myself to read 10 Shakespeare plays in 1 week, and that was actually so much fun. I do need to get the, like, what's it called, like the Spark Notes versions, where you basically read the Shakespeare play as like how it was written by Shakespeare, but then it also has like the modern day translations, and that's like the only way I could read it, because Shakespeare is very difficult for me to understand. For those who it's very easy for you guys to understand Shakespeare, I'm very, very jealous. But I need to read a modern translation along with it. And I actually really, really enjoyed that process. So I decided to get the rest of the copies in that edition that I found on Book Depository. So I'm just gonna run through them real quick. I'm not gonna go into any detail about any of these. But first we have Titus Andronicus. Yes, that's correct. The Sonnets, The Two Gentlemen of Verona, The Winter's Tale. I feel like I have to put them in the right way so that they're not super shiny. Love's Labour's Lost, The Comedy of Errors, Richard II and Richard III, Henry IV Part 1 and Henry IV Part 2, Another Henry, Henry VIII, Measure for Measure, The Merchant of Venice, Julius Caesar, Troilus and Cressida, I think, and Coriolanus. So those are the 16 Shakespeare plays that I bought. So I think I may try and do like 7 Shakespeare plays in 7 days, something like that. If that's a type of video you'd be interested in, please let me know, because I think that would be really fun to film. And so the rest of the books that I have here are the Penguin English Library editions of classics. So the first 4 books here that I have are from Jane. The first 4 books that I have here are from Jane Austen. So in alphabetical order, we have Emma. So pretty. I have watched the newer movie version of this, which I didn't really like that much, but I do love Anya Taylor-Joy, so it was okay, I guess. She was the best part of it for sure. Mansfield Park, Northanger Abbey, and Persuasion. All right, and then we have one from Anne Bronte, and this is The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. This one I read the synopsis for yesterday, and it actually sounds really interesting and dramatic, so I'm very excited to read this one. Okay, then we have Lewis Carroll, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. I have seen the movie many, many times, the original, like, one from the whatever decade it came out. I don't even remember. The 50s, 40s, 30s? I have no idea, but I've always really wanted to read Alice in Wonderland. I think it might be a little too whimsical for me, but I'm hoping that I'll still enjoy it. And then we have The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. Then we have Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, nice and short. Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe. A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, which I feel like I've seen every rendition, every movie of this book, but I've never actually read the actual classic. So that'll be fun to read this Christmas. And Great Expectations from Charles Dickens. Lots of Charles Dickens. We also have Oliver Twist, which I have seen the musical and really enjoyed, and A Tale of Two Cities, also by Dickens. So lots of Dickens going on. Maybe I'll dedicate a month to reading Dickens. What do you guys think? Then I also have two from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. The first is The Hounds of Baskerville, and then A Study in Scarlet. I know this one is a, I was about to call him Indiana Jones. No, Sherlock Holmes book. I don't know if this one is actually. It is. It is also a Holmes book. And then we're almost near the end. We also have two from Thomas Hardy. The first one is Far from the Madding Crowd, which also has a movie that I really, really want to watch, but I was holding off until I read the book. And Tess of the D'Urbervilles, which I don't know anything about this book. I've literally maybe heard it mentioned twice in my life, but you know, wine-induced me was like, yeah, let's get that too. Next we have The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne, which I definitely was supposed to read in high school and did not do. So it's like kind of been read by me because I'm sure I like skimmed it, but no, I never finished it. So we're gonna rectify that now. Then we have North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. Also don't know anything about this book. Then we have this monster of a book, which is Middlemarch by George Eliot, which also I don't know anything about. So I'm just gonna stop saying that because we can just assume that I don't know anything about them. Then also a monstrosity, not a monstrosity, also a monster, no, also a big book, is Herman Melville's Moby Dick, which I know Jesse from Jesse the Reader just recently read, and I think he said he enjoyed it, so we'll see. I don't know when I'm gonna get to this one. Then we have Dubliners by James Joyce. Then we have Daisy Miller and the Turn of the Screw by Henry James. Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift. We have Mark Twain's Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, which also was a one I was supposed to read in school but never did, so yeah. And finally we have 3 H.G. Wells books. We have The Invisible Man. Look how pretty this cover is. Ooh. We have The Time Machine. And finally, The War of the Worlds, which I'm gonna read these 3 next month for a vlog, I think. So yeah, that's it. That is all the books that I've bought recently and the 57 books that are on my physical TBR. Let me know if any of these are books that you have read and loved, or if there's some that you're interested in, or if there's some you recommend I read first. Let me know, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye!